greatest symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, this is Kurt Angle, and welcome to the Kurt Angle Show. On the show today, we'll be talking to the gold standard. But first, let me introduce to you my co-host, the bald standard, Paul Bromwell. How you doing today, Paul?
The bald standard, Kurt, I'm fired up. Listen, we have a live ad-free shows audience that's watching along with us as we record this. You said it. Yes, we're all bald. I get it. But the gold standard, he's joining us today. Let's welcome him in. Come on in, Shelton Benjamin.
That's right, Shelton Benjamin. 130 original Team Angle.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest athletes in professional wrestling history. My man, Shelton Benjamin. How you doing today, Shelton?
I'm doing good, Kurt. And, this is a long time coming. I'm so happy to be here. And, I hope we can have a lot of fun today. I hope I don't embarrass you with some of the stories, but
we hope you do. We actually hope you do. Yeah. Shelton, you're wearing the You Suck shirt, first of all. For those that aren't watching on, I love it. You said you've been waiting to pull this one out.
I've been waiting for years. I knew someday I was going to end up here. That's why this shirt has been in my possession since I wore this shirt in the original tribute to the troops.
Wow.
So I've had this shirt that long.
2003?
2000. Yes. Yeah. Yes. 2003.
Wow.
Well, then, so you got that shirt on, and Kurt and I are twinsies in our meme shirt. Have you seen the Kurt Angle meme thing?
I have totally seen the Kurt Angle memes, and I laugh every time. I might be a meme, soon, but I don't know if I can do the faces quite like Kurt.
Yes,
that's not even close.
I was good.
I don't have the facial hair to go with it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Shelton. Curtin at first he didn't know how in he was going to be on this whole meme thing, right. And then I was like, dude, it's going everywhere. You got to be in on this.
Yeah, it is. You're on fire right now. So give us some more. We need them.
Yeah, yep. Bring it. So now we got shirts with them all over us, and it's.
Yeah, I'm gonna need one of those too. So
okay, we'll get you. Yeah, we'll hook you up. Well, hey, listen, let's jump into it. We got a lot of questions for you, and we're going to start at the beginning. We when we bring folks on, Shelton, we kind of do like a career retrospective, and especially as it goes on and ties in with you and Kurt. But your story begins at the University of Minnesota, does it not?
Honestly, I think my pro wrestling story started way before that.
Talk to us about it, yeah.
Only because I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. Since the time I was a kid, I've always been a wrestling fan. And I remember the first match that ever got my attention. It was actually a match with Superfly Jimmy Snuka, but it was on TBS. It wasn't for a WWE promotion, and it was the first time I saw him do a flying headbutt. And as a kid, I was amazed by it. So then I was really invested. And then guys like the Rock and Roll Express and Dusty Rhodes, I'm from South Carolina, so I watched a lot of that, the Crockett promotions and things like that. So that's what I grew up watching. I saw WWFE at the time, here and there. For some reason, I just didn't see as much. So I was more of a fan. So I don't know wrestling without Ric Flair. I don't know wrestling without Sting and Dusty Rhodes and Cornette and all these guys. So my love for wrestling started way back then. My high school coach actually asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up. I'm in high school, and I said I want to try my hands at pro wrestling. And he's like, why? I'm like, well, I see guys do it. It looks fun, and I think I can do it better than them. And he's like, okay, we'll look into that, because my high school coach actually knew Gorilla Monsoon personally. So the intention was after college, we contact him. But as it so happens, I ended up at the University of Minnesota, and Jerry Robinson, who knew Gerald Brisco, and long story short, that connection led me to the WWE.
Well, you were an assistant coach of Brock Lesnar's.
Right.
What was your first memory of coaching him?
So my first memory of coaching him, it wasn't pleasant. No, don't get me wrong. Brock was a great guy, lots of fun. Like he isn't the Brock that he shows. He wasn't the Brock that he shows everyone now. You know, there's two different sides of that guy. But at the time, my first impression when we actually got in the ring, it was just to wrestle him. I wanted to see what he knew because, of course, me being I was still extremely competitive anyway. And the one tournament that we were in together, he actually won because I had lost in a previous bout. So I was like, really, okay, I want to know what he can do. And I shot in on him. And all he did was thrust his hip forward and I flew back across the room. And I said, well, that's not going to work. So honestly, he was a sponge. Like Brock is built for war. His combat acumen, his combat IQ, like everything you taught him, he picked it right up. His first few matches, Minnesota, like he just destroyed guys effortlessly. And the first time he lost a match, it was because he actually won the match, in my opinion. It was just he was shooting this explosive double, and he would literally just run right off the mat with it. So he kept taking the guy out of bounds, so his scores weren't counting, and he lost by 1 point. And it was clear he dominated that kid, but the guy was from, I believe it was Iowa State, and you know he just lucked out that night. That never happened again. So as far as Brock, like as a pupil, a sponge, like he picks up everything. But in all honesty, I coached him for about, I don't know, a few months because I was there almost 2 years helping him out and working with him. But the first 6 months, it was more coaching and fine tuning. After that, it was just straight wrestling. Like what else can you teach him? He was a juggernaut, and I was familiar enough to be able to handle him. But like there were some days it was just misery. Like some days he would completely dominate me. There was never a day where I completely dominated him, but I do know how to corral him. But he's a phenom, like in every sense of the word.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And I want to go back because you were talking a little bit about your fandom as a kid of pro wrestling, and you mentioned the Crockett territory, which I grew up enjoying the Crockett days too. Did you have a favorite wrestler, favorite tag team? Like who were your guys growing up watching wrestling?
So, and I've told them this to their faces. I fell in love with a tag team first. I fell in love with the Rock and Roll Express. That was the first team. Those were the first pro wrestlers that I watched, and I just wanted to do everything they did. I fell in love with everything about them. I had a million bandanas on my wrists and ankles, and you know, all doing flying head scissors with my kids with my friends at home and at school. So the Rock and Roll Express really made me fall in love with wrestling. And of course, from there, like Magnum TA, that was my dog.
Oh, love
and and you know, I was a kid with an attitude, and I got a lot of fights as a kid. And the belly to belly suplex won so many street fights for me. You have no idea. So many street fights. Once you hit them one time, I mean, it was over. It was over.
You throw them on their head or on their back?
Well, so here's the thing. I studied it so much. I was throwing them on their back at first, but then I figured out if I tilt a little more, I could make their head bounce off the ground, and instant KO.
Nice.
Well, did you ever expect to get into professional wrestling?
Yeah, kind of. Like I knew I was going to try because it was something that I loved. but of course, when I became an amateur wrestler, honestly, my first thought when I got to the mat was where the ropes, where the range. You know what I mean? So, but amateur wrestling kind of took off for me when I was in the 10th grade. Like I didn't start till I was in the 10th grade, and I just ducked to water. I started in the 10th grade. I think I took 5th my first year at heavyweight, and then I was a 2-time state champ. I took 3rd nationally, and I was an All-American freestyle. Like I had no designs around amateur wrestling as opposed to pro wrestling. Like I always wanted to do that, but amateur wrestling, like I just took to it like a duck to water, and I kind of got distracted with, I shouldn't say distracted, but focused on that. And it wasn't until my first daughter was born. I was actually starting to train at the Olympic Training Center and things like that. But I was like, I need money now. And after doing the math, the Olympics were great. It would have been a great honor, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for the guys that have done it, can do it, and continue to do it. But at the time, me being a young father, just finishing up college, like I needed to make money. So when I got the opportunity to go to WWE, I left college a semester early.
Now Kurt has told us when he was doing the whole amateur wrestling thing that guys would kind of give him crap or a hairy eyeball if he said anything about pro wrestling. Did you kind of get any of that too? If you mentioned, hey, this is cool and all, but I want to be a pro wrestler. Did you ever
of course.
That? Yeah.
Oh my God. Not so much in high school, not so much, but in college, yeah, there was a bit of a, side eye from a lot of people. I frankly didn't care. Like,
yeah,
I would go like when I stayed in the dorm, like there was one TV downstairs that had cable so I could watch wrestling. I would go in that room an hour early and basically confiscate the room, because if you're already in there, whoever has the TV controls it. So I would get in there every week. I didn't care what people think. This is what I love. This is what I'd always loved.
That's awesome.
Nothing was going to stop me from watching it. And I wasn't exactly, I wasn't a good target for bullies. Let's put it that way.
Always a battles. So you didn't give a shit. You were like, I don't care. I'm going to be a pro wrestler. So who cares?
Exactly.
And then talk about, you mentioned Brisco. So can you talk about getting in or signing that development deal? What did that look like?
So I did my tryout in Stanford, and Dr. Tom Pritchard was running it, and it was just me and one other guy, a guy named Andrew Bernardsky. You might know him from the movie The Program. He played Latimer. I think he played Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface in a few of those movies. So it was me and him, basically palling together for that weekend and just training. So, that was an experience. I trained hard for that tryout, but I trained amateur wrestling hard for that tryout, which is psycho. When I got there, I felt like the tryout went way easier than it should have. And I didn't really have a sense of what they were thinking. This was a week before Thanksgiving in '99. They didn't call me back. I think it was Johnny Ace had called me in late December, said, we're going to sign you and you can go to Atlanta or you can go to Louisville. And I said, well, I'm going to Louisville. But me and Brisco's actual relationship didn't really blossom until I was actually on the main roster. And he basically took me under his wing. I call him my wrestling father, because if I had any kind of advice I need, he was there for me. We joke a lot with each other. Like it was like he looked out for all the amateurs, and I can't say enough good things about Jerry. Like he is my pro wrestling father, because he watched out for me like he was my old man.
He did for me as well, Shelton. He's a great guy, and he will always back amateur wrestlers. He doesn't know himself. But now walk us through Jim Cornette and Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Okay, so as I said earlier, Jim Cornette I didn't know wrestling without Jim Cornette. Like I grew up watching him. So when I got to Louisville, when I finally met him, 1,000%. 1,000%. I remember just thinking to myself, that's Jim Cornette. That's Jim Cornette. You know what I mean? Like the kid in me is like just freaking out a little bit. But for me, Corny was great. He focused more on the promo side of things, the television side of things. I know at one point they were trying to get me to do the leg drop that Bobby Eaton was doing. They actually brought Bobby Eaton to teach it to me.
Oh,
but
wow.
I didn't really enjoy landing on my butt like that.
The Alabama Jam.
All right.
Yeah.
But for me, Cornette and Danny Davis, who again, Danny is awesome too. Like Danny did so much for me. The one time I got into trouble, Danny made sure, he put me in my place and he made sure that I kept the job. So I can't thank Danny enough. But it was funny because Cornette, he's so passionate about everything he did down there that, when every now and then when WWE would kind of put their fingers into his creation and kind of screw things up, it was funny to watch Cornette throw a fit. So his fits were legendary. But I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I remember watching him take a baseball bat to some warehouse glass and just go to town. But for me, and I know these days he seems to be a polarizing figure. But to me, Jim Cornette has always been great. He's been nothing but kind. There's never been a bad word between us. So, I hate to disappoint people by, saying he's a nice guy, but my relationship with Cornette, I consider him a friend. But I understand there are some people that may have issues with some of the things he says or does. That's between them. I have nothing to do with that, and I have nothing but love for Corny.
There you go. Let's talk about another guy you may have nothing but love for. We'll see how you answer this. How much of Kurt Angle did you watch before going to the main roster?
Well, Kurt doesn't know this. He probably doesn't remember this, but we met my last year amateur wrestling. But it was in passing, and I just remember you had just gone to WWE, but you came to NCAs. And I remember we were in.
Oh, I remember that show. I remember meeting you, but I remember going there.
Yeah, well, I was a little intimidated because you were the Olympic champion and you were now a WWE superstar. So I kind of walked past you, and you were just kind of in a corner, just kind of to yourself. And I just remember kind of walking by and making eye contact, and I felt like you were sizing everybody up, like literally everybody. But I think I might have shook your hand and just kept it moving because you didn't seem too inviting at the time.
That's Kurt.
But I went on I watched all of his, pretty much everything he did. Those early days, just because again, as an amateur wrestler, I wanted to see what he did. I wanted to see what I was compared with, because for amateur wrestlers, Kurt was carrying a torch. I don't know if he's explained this to you, but when me and Brock came in, guys were kind of intimidated with amateur wrestlers because one, they thought we couldn't adapt, in things like that, or they thought we were hurt. Couldn't turn on the entertainment aspect. But also they were just straight up scared of us from a purely physical standpoint. They were just scared of our abilities. So watching Kurt, like I said, he was carrying the torch for all of us. And part of me, I felt my responsibility was I gotta do good just like him, because I'm representing a whole nother sport coming into this. So I don't want us to look bad. So I watched a lot of Kurt stuff. I remember when you got into the concussion, when you fell, and even for me, I was like, "Oh no, he's hurt! Like, come on, you got to tough it out,
Yeah.
You got to represent for us amateur wrestlers." so I watched a lot of Kurt, specifically because for me that was my model. That was one of my models. So,
well, who told you about Team Angle, and were you excited about it?
Who told me about Team Angle? I think it was Charlie.
How did he get the information before you did?
I have no. Well, we'll get to that in a second. I don't know how he got the information, but I know he got it from me, and I remember there was talks about a faction with myself, Brock, you, and the Haas brothers.
Okay, yeah, that's
Brooke Charlie and his brother.
When Russ was still alive, right?
Right. So, and then that changed. Obviously, after Russ's passing, I think Charlie had told me they were talking about it, and this is why he was still rehabbing his knee. He had ACL surgery, and he was rehabbing it. And I think he said when he gets ready, they're going to put us together as a team and make Team Angle. Of course, Brock was already on the road, so that was, everything was basically falling into place in some areas, very unfortunately, but everything kind of fell into place. But yeah, Charlie got the information before me. I'll be on, and I'll be, I will say that, like, back then I was so excited about everything. My head was in the clouds. Like I was living my dream. I was living my best life. I wasn't concerned with plans. I wasn't concerned with any of the things that would distract me from what I was doing in the moment. Because even OVW for me, it was great, and I felt like I was doing good. I'm like, I know I'm gonna get up there. There's no way I can't. So I never really tried to push to do anything. Like I figured when the time came, and I didn't ask a lot of questions. I just did what was asked of me to the best of my ability and had fun while I did it.
Man, that's great. We actually had Charlie Haas on the show last year. And do you keep up with Charlie? Do you have any kind of relationship?
Absolutely.
With him? Oh, cool.
Charlie's my brother. Like there's never been a time when me and Charlie haven't been in contact. I talk to him almost every week, just about every week. I've seen him through his highs, his lows, his highs again. Like I've never ever not been in contact with Charlie, and we've never ever not had a close relationship. Like WWE actually really did both of us a favor. Like they basically gave us best friends, because that's basically been the story for the last 20 plus years.
Recently, Giovanna hit me up about going to the Aerosmith concert in Pittsburgh. I absolutely love the concert. You know that. And I want to tell you, Paul, that we bought our tickets using the Game Time app. When I launched the app, I had no idea the number of concerts, games, and events they had available. They had every event you can imagine in the Pittsburgh area. And even better, the prices blew me away. I was able to get us great seats for the concert. And what was cool was their cancellation policy. I've not seen anything like it. So consumer friendly. Apparently, they also have a job loss protection feature as well. Thanks to Game Time, we had an absolute blast while listening to all the classics from Sweet Emotion to Love in an Elevator. I was rocking out with my gold medals on, and now they are my favorite app of choice when it comes to buying tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ANGLE for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ANGLE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's true. It's damn true. Wow. Your first TV match for the WWE was against Chris Benoit and Edge. How crazy is that looking back?
Man, that was insane. Like, I mean, that was
your first.
Yeah, it was like first night out. It was like hit the ground running.
Yeah,
and I tell people all the time, if you go back and watch that debut, I couldn't stop smiling. Like I know we were supposed to be there, be these big tough guys, and I couldn't stop smiling. Like I was like, I'm here. The people are looking at us. They're paying attention to us. Like when Paul Heyman said my name, I could not stop smiling. So now we get to the match. And I'm like, this is against Edge and Benoit. And it was like, again, wow, you guys shoved us right into the deep end of the pool.
Yes, they did.
No easing in or nothing. We're just, bam, right in there. And it was so much fun. was way easier than I expected. But at the same time, like I felt like having spent 2.5 years in OVW, myself and other guys in my class, we were overqualified, and when they finally called us up. So for me, you
guys were more than ready, right, Shelton?
Yeah.
Because I only trained for 7 months, and they brought me on TV.
Well,
I wasn't ready, but you guys were ready. We're going 2.5 years. You should have been ready. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And I guess I feel like back then I used to get a lot of heat because I didn't get nervous before matches. And I didn't get.
That's you. You don't worry about anything.
No. So one, again, I trained so hard, and I knew I was good, and it was one of those. It was one of those things where, like, from a performance standpoint, I was never ever worried about, am I going to have a good match? Am I going to remember anything? Am I going to screw up anything? It was never a worry. Not saying those things didn't happen, and I didn't have to respond when it did happen, but going into matches, like, I never really got nervous. We might touch on it later, but even when I had the match with Triple H, from a in-ring standpoint, I never got like the butterflies in my stomach or anything like that. Like I knew I was prepared. I knew what I was doing, and I knew I was in there with people who could lead me and who were just great. So I just wanted to look like I belong.
There's no question they had confidence in you and Charlie right away, because as we were talking about it, it just took a little bit of time before you guys would be tag team champions over the Guerreros, Eddie and Chavo, right? I mean, that had to feel like, man, we're off to the races.
Okay, so that I did not expect. That happened so fast, and it's one of those things where going into pro wrestling, like, my goal was just to be a tag team champion. I didn't think about U.S. titles. In my head, I was going to be a tag team champion. The Rock and Roll Express for tag team champions, those were my favorite. I was going to be a tag team champion. And another part of that is just, which is an issue for me to this day, still there was a lack of diversity in the world champion scene. So because I never seen it, it never crossed my mind that I could do this, that I could be the world champion like that. But a tag team champion, like, I knew, okay, this is what I'm going to get. So my goals going into WWE was, okay, be a tag team champion. And I did that. We debuted the very last SmackDown of 2002. By WrestleMania, we were defending the tag team championship.
Yes. Insane.
That was a whirlwind. That was crazy. And I was like, I remember taking that belt home for the first time going, holy cow, I did it. I could not believe I had accomplished my goal that early. So it was like, kind of like, the dog chasing the car. Okay, well, what do I do now? Set new goals. So, but yeah, that during that time, and maybe that whole first year or two, like, I could not wait to get to work. I absolutely could not wait to get to work. And honestly, like, Kurt was our captain. He was our leader. But he made us feel like we mattered. We were part of the team. That we weren't. It was Team Angle, but Kurt was like a brother. He's our big brother. He's not treating us like his lackeys or anything like that. Kurt is treating us like equals, and I think that played into why things worked so well between us. Like, we all just got along. And one of the biggest honors that I personally had that early on was, at one point, I remember, Kurt, you had asked us, me and Charlie, hey, how do you do something like that? So it's like, whoa. In my head, he's already phenomenal, but he's asking for my advice or our advice. So it wasn't just hey, follow my lead. It's like, hey, guys, what do you guys think? So we were all, it was so much fun. And like I said, Kurt we couldn't have had a better guy at the helm. Like, he was awesome.
See, Paul, I told you so.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, one got me.
Well, your first pay-per-view match was at No Way Out, where all of Team Angle took on Benoit and Brock. Tell me how about that night and how special it was for you.
That was. I'm thinking back, and I remember. Edge
That's when I broke my neck. If you forgot, Shelton.
I remember that match 1,000% because I remember, when we had to do the thing where Edge had to get taken out because it seemed like he got hurt, and we had so many fun spots, and that I tell you what, it's hard to beat a good Canadian crowd. Like they were on fire that night, and me, Charlie, and Brock were fairly new, and the responses we were getting, like it was awesome. Like I said, I might use the word awesome too much, but it was fucking awesome.
I love it. I got to ask you both this question. You ready, Kurt? You ready, Shelton? Did Team Angle break up too soon? I'll start with you. Kurt said yes. What do you think?
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
And it was my fault. I broke my neck. And when I came back, they were like, "Hey, we need to change stuff up, and we're gonna have you face Charlie and Shelton." And it was like, "Wait a minute, we just started this. Like we only went for what about 6 months, Shelton, before they kind of split us up, maybe 7 months."
Yeah, it was not long at all. It wasn't long. It didn't make a year.
It been really, really good. I mean, we could have one of the greatest factions in history. I mean, this thing is really special. We had something really cool going on, and it just sucks that I got injured, and that's the reason why.
Right. Yeah, it was disappointing for us too. Like I said, we were having so much fun with it. The fans loved it. We loved it. And honestly, I felt like we still had so much more to learn from Kurt, just being under his tutelage. But things happen, and whoever made the decisions weren't budging on it. And I think we're all. I think I can speak for Charlie when I say we all felt like, they broke us up way too soon.
We felt like we were robbed of something. Really cool. Listen, we could have held those titles. I wasn't supposed to lose the title. I broke my neck, so I had to drop the title to Brock. They had the titles at the time. We were all champions. We're gonna have a nice year-long reign, and it just broke apart right when I broke my neck, and that was it.
Right.
It was the end of Team Angle, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, it sucked. It really did. But you got to regroup and get back on the horse, and that's pretty much what we all did.
You and Charlie did.
But I will say the first time I think fans really started to respect me and Charlie was after we had a handicap match with you. And we were fighting all in the crowd and all these things. I just remember when I think you had left first and we were still selling. But that was the first time I felt like I distinctly remember getting a standing ovation. Like the crowd was over,
right? You were over.
Yeah, and that was the first time I felt like that was because of what we did, as opposed to what we were a part of. And so in hindsight, the breakup did garner us a lot more respect after our match with you, but the breakup was still too soon.
It was. But you and Charlie transitioned into the world's greatest tag team. What did you think of that team name?
Well, it was better than the one before it. In all honesty, we hated it. The name they had originally wanted us to go with was the best damn tag team, period. And I think there was like a show on ESPN or something.
Yeah, the best damn sports show. Yeah,
1,000% ripping that off, and we were like, "What? This what? No, what?" But then apparently they couldn't get it past copyright.
Okay.
So then they came with the world's greatest tag team. We're like, the world's greatest tag team? Like what? Like this? Like who's coming up with these? This is like, where's the creativity in this name? Right. Like it just sounded so generic. But like I said, we ran with it, and they immediately put the tag titles back on us. And surprisingly enough, like it got over.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it was one of those things like, okay, I guess I need to trust the process a little more, because this is actually pretty cool. So now we proudly proclaim we're the world's greatest tag team. Even when we went to Ring of Honor, we couldn't be the world's greatest tag team, but we were still wrestling's greatest tag team. So
there you go.
We figured out how to keep those acronyms.
Yeah. Keep the syllables or the
You talked about you and Charlie's relationship, and obviously, and your favorite tag team was Rock and Roll. You pictured yourself being a tag team wrestler, but now they're going to split you up. Were you sad to see that happen, or was it like, oh wow, I might have a shot now here in the singles side of things? What did you thought?
I'll be honest. I don't think I was ready when they split us up. So I was a much better wrestler tagging with Charlie, because I was so gifted as far as athleticism. Like, I could do anything. So me and Charlie, we sit and talk, and we talked about how we wanted to hide our weaknesses and showcase our strengths in each other. So that's why Charlie was a much better technician than me. I was a high flyer guy, so
better athlete.
Yeah, so there were things where Charlie, I never threw German suplex until I was a single guy, because I was a flying guy. So I'm not, Kurt's doing it, Charlie's doing it. I'm not going to do that, because I need to, we don't need to be carbon copies of each other. And two, the best way to help feature Charlie is to feature Charlie. But if we're doing the exact same things, there are things I can do that he absolutely can't do. So instead of trying to have the exact same movesets, okay, I'm the Air Force, you're the Marines. And that's basically that was our approach to all of our matches. And that's why we gelled so well. We looked out for each other. Like, if a match was being put together, like, we already made pacts, like, okay, we're not doing this, this, and this. And so if someone made suggestions that went against what we felt as teams or individuals, like, we spoke up for each other. Like, you couldn't volunteer Charlie for a spot if I wasn't there. If I know Charlie is not going to be, if I know he's going to take issue with that, and vice versa. So between that relationship and the fact that Charlie, again, because he wasn't the athlete that I was, he had to work really hard. And because of that, I had to work really hard. I was his partner. So Charlie boosted my work ethic tremendously. So between Charlie and Arn Anderson putting us through the paces before every show, like, I went from being God gifted is another way of saying talented but lazy. Mm-hmm. I was talented but lazy until I got with Charlie. And because Charlie had to work hard and I was his partner, I have to work hard too. So he boosted my work ethic.
Yeah.
So so when we split up, like, I wasn't ready. I didn't know the reasoning by it, but again, I didn't ask questions. I just did what was asked of me. But no, we definitely didn't want to split up at the time. Like, we felt like we had another year or two, but
you guys could have. It was possible. Even 3 years, you guys could have done it. Yeah. Now, you got a big win right away after the split on Raw when you beat Triple H. Where was that all supposed to go?
Where was the
program with Triple H, or what was that? What was the whole reasoning behind having a match with him and going over on it?
Basically to fast track me.
To enhance
that was to fast track me. I don't know, because again, I didn't ask questions. I just did what was asked of me. But I do know the term fast track was used when they were saying I was going to have the match with Hunter. I think at the time they wanted to they wanted to create a black star. And at the time, like today, like there's tons of every color in the rainbow in WWE. But at the time, there was not. I mean, there was me, Mark Henry, Ron Simmons. Truth was still working in TNA at the time. So me, Ron Simmons, Mark Henry.
There weren't a lot.
There weren't a lot, and I was a new guy, and they wanted to basically they wanted to create a black superstar. That much I do know. But as far as where the program was going to go, like I never knew because it went for a couple weeks, and then I got moved over to, I think, Rick. Like I actually thought my first pay-per-view match was going to be with Hunter, but it ended up being with Rick.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Purpose. It got you over.
Yeah.
It 1000% did the job that it was meant to do.
Yeah, you do feud with Evolution. You defeat Ric Flair, who, by the way, you're watching as a kid, and Crockett, and all of a sudden, you really got to feel like this rocket ship's tied to your back for beating Ric Flair at a pay-per-view. Come on.
Okay, so wrestling Ric Flair the first time at that pay-per-view, that's when that little kid in me came out, because but it was weird because it wasn't until I was in the ring waiting for him and his music hit. And, the room went dark. And so you can't see my reaction, but I am literally like staring like, holy cow, that's Ric Flair. And he's coming to the ring. And like, I remember like, it wasn't until he stepped in the ring, I was like, oh, get back in the character because he's coming to wrestle you. Like he was, that was my mark out. That was one of my biggest mark out moments. I've only ever had two real mark out moments. And the second one was with Undertaker, years later. But that first time watching Rick come down, and I have a grand aunt. Her name was Ann Lauza. And she hated Ric Flair with a passion. And I mean, she hated Ric Flair since the 70s. So when she actually got to see when I finally got to show her that match of me having the match with Flair, like she was like, I mean, she's throwing stuff around. She's swearing to King. She's like, beat that old hoe. Because she always hated Ric Flair because he was a womanizer. She used to call him that old hoe, Ric Flair, that old hoe.
Oh, I love it.
So that, for me, just her reaction from that match was worth it. Like that was so much fun to see her. But yeah, wrestling Ric Flair like that's a dream come true. That was a dream come true.
Now, you'd win the Intercontinental title from Chris Jericho at your first singles title.
Right.
What did that mean to you?
That's when in my head, I was officially overachieving. I've said this before. I didn't expect to be working that night, and I know leading up to the pay-per-view, there was a nice build-up for me. They were giving me some momentum. I remember I had a promo with Mr. McMahon where I basically told him, he gave me his blessing. I was like, well, I don't need your blessing. I need their blessing because it's voting. And the truth is, to me, my match with Jericho was the only match on that card that truly was up in the air because Chris had no idea who he was going to wrestle that night. They refused to tell him. Everyone else that had a match, it was some sort of gimmick match. So you knew you knew who you were working with, and you knew there were these type of gimmicks or these type of stipulations. But in the case of in the case of Chris Jericho, he only knew that you got to wrestle one of 15 guys. And again, I always thought it was going to be Batista. And when I won, you watched the announcement. I wasn't paying attention because I was just like, "Oh, it's going to be Batista." And they said my name, so there's a delayed reaction from me. So I had the fake excitement, but I was like, "Oh shit, I got to wrestle!" Like, so it's actually good. They made us stay in gear all day, and like when they did the reveal, so I went straight to the ring and. I had no idea I was going to win until Chris Jericho didn't kick out. The only thing that was said to me going into that match was when Jericho locked up to me and he said, "What's your finish?" And I said, "T-bone." And that took, that little exchange was like the blink of an eye, and then we just had the match. And I just listened to Jericho.
Wow.
And
no conversation prior to inside the ring. Unreal.
No, so before early that day, Chris had been trying to get an idea of who he was going to work, and they wouldn't give him any information. He's like, well, who's the leading? So he's going around to everyone kind of going, okay, if I do this and this, trying to get a template. And he came to me, he's like, Shelton, do you know when I do this? And I said, hey, I'll stop you right there. I know all of your stuff. He's like, okay, thank you. I knew I didn't have to worry about you. So then he went on, and that was all of the conversation we had before that match.
And you know what? You guys pulled it off, and you won the title.
It was a really good match too, man. Wow.
Yeah, it was. Man, it was so much. It was really good, but it was like, I was just listening. Like I said, when you're in there with some of the greatest talent ever. Like my first few years, like the guys that I got to work with and the stuff they were teaching me, like you have to be in there with them to really understand one, how to work, not how to do moves, how to look cool, but how to work. And between my matches with Jericho, with Hunter, with HBK, with Benoit, with Taker, like matches that I expected to be really, really hard from a mental standpoint, they make these matches so incredibly easy. At least for me, from an athletic standpoint, like it was like, okay, just they're playing a video game. Tell me what you need me to do, and I'll do it. Bing, 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 bing.
You said his name, and we're going there. HBK, that all-time classic match, the super kick, no one forgets, buddy. Where does that rank on your all-time matches?
It's definitely in my top 10.
Okay.
It's in my top. I've never actually done an official ranking of it. I know from a fan standpoint, that's probably one of my most memorable matches, with good reason, because it's definitely one of my most memorable matches. But I would say top 5, because I felt like, as far as spectacular finishes, nothing tops that. Nothing tops that. But as far as overall matches, like I've had a few other matches that I felt like were just as good, if not better. The night before, I always cite this again with Chris Jericho. I defended the IC title against Jericho at the pay-per-view the night before. And to me, that was one of the best matches of my career. I will hold that match up to anything I've done since, including the Shawn Michaels match. Obviously, that finish is a greatest finish, number 1. Greatest matches. I mean, there was that. There was a live event show I had with MVP once where I think Edge was the champion, but he was hurt and had to wrestle Great Khali. So that obviously couldn't go long for a few reasons. So they asked me and MVP to pull a little time in our match, which was just before. And I remember Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was in the back, and they were just experimenting with wiring the referees with mics at the live events. So me and MVP are having this match, and Ricky from the back start calling in audibles for us. And it turned out to be one of my favorite matches of all time. Like it kind of flip-flops, but in my top 5, that match, even if it was a live event, I wish it was televised. It's great. And that,
you always do. When you have a match like that, you always wish it was televised.
It's like, man, I wish someone was filming that. Like, I want to watch this back. But it was so much fun because, again, what made it fun was like we were having a match that was going well, but then Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was, again, he was sending messages to the ref, and the ref was just telling us, and we were like, okay, doing it. And the reaction in that crowd that night, I can't remember the name of the city. MVP always remembers it, but like I said, that's one of my favorite matches of all time.
Well, I'm going to put you on a spot here, Sheldon. Who was better in the ring, me or Shawn Michaels?
I love it.
Why are you trying to start stuff, Kurt?
Yeah.
You know, if you say Shawn Michaels, the whole amateur wrestling community is going to hate you.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. I can do what we call compartmentalize everything. From a technical standpoint,
I love it.
I don't think there's anyone on the planet better than you, Kurt. Like I do. To me, to this day, and I'm not saying this just because I'm on your podcast. I will say this anywhere I have to. For me, the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen was you versus Benoit at Royal Rumble. Like that, to me, I watched that match and I was like, those are the kind of matches that I want to have. And just because, again, the athleticism, the explosiveness, the ferocity, the intensity, like that was everything that I wish I encompassed. But to me, that's one of the greatest that's the greatest wrestling match I've ever witnessed firsthand.
New Year's resolutions are hard, but saving money is easy with SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, but if you've got credit card debt, you can get rid of it just like that and skip your next 2 house payments. That's right. No payments until April at SaveWithConrad.com. The team at Save with Conrad are routinely helping families just like yours save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. Find out how much money you can save for free at SaveWithConrad.com. MLS number 32416, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com.
Thank you, Sheldon.
That being said, psychology-wise, yeah, Sean's going to take the top spot there. Sean's going to take the top spot.
I wrestled him too, quite a few. So I know.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys, you both have your number one slots. They're just in different categories.
Great answer. You should be a politician, Shelton Benjamin.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Let's talk about another superstar as we move through this. You had the record intercontinental title of the 21st century. We're not counting honky tonk, but you had the record in 21st century until Gunther passed it recently. What did you think of Gunther in your time while you were in WWE?
So I actually we were on different shows, so I never really got to work with him. I hung around him, obviously we met, we've chat, and he seemed like a really, really cool guy. He kind of reminds me of Randy, to be honest. Just in his demeanor, his movements, and even his build to some degree. But I think what he's done, first of all, the first time I saw Gunther, he was, like 100 pounds heavier, and I didn't see the appeal. But I haven't seen the appeal with a lot of people who turn out to be phenomenal. But when he finally made it to WWE and he started trimming down, and you start to realize, whoa, this guy, he's changing, he's leveling up so he can belong here. And what they've done with him, what he's managed to do, his look is straight out of a comic book. Like he is like, they call him the General. Like he looks the part of. So,
he does. He definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just from a performance, like again, I don't know him well enough to really comment on his personality or things like that. But he's always been nice, loving, kind, and I think he's doing a phenomenal job. Yeah, I do feel like I need to go in that title ring, but that's a different story. But I think what he's doing is great. But of the 2010s, I'm still the man. You cannot take that from me. You will not take that from me. I'm the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of the 2010s. So live with it, hate it, be mad. There's only one thing you can do about it, and that's deal with it.
Yeah, cutting promos. I love it, Kurt.
Well, Sheldon, what was your honest opinion of Shelton's mama storyline?
My honest opinion was it should have been a really, really, really good story. It should have been. And it was until it just vanished. Because most people don't realize that from the first time you saw Mama to the last time you saw Mama was 8 weeks. Like, people think it went on for years. Like, no, 8 weeks.
Quick.
Yeah. So, and I feel like in that time, while they were, we were doing the Mama's Boy gimmick and things like that, and kind of like, and I said this when I was on the bump, like the story wasn't finished, because at some point my character had to grow up, be a man, stand on his own, get his balls back and everything. But for the most part, the Mama's Boy character was left hanging when, Thea had to, when Thea was let go, or I think she had medical issues, and then they eventually released her. But the problem with it is the story was unfinished. Now, while we were doing it, I was having the time of my life. I had so much fun with that. I had so much fun with that gimmick. I had so much fun with that character. I was getting more TV time than I could imagine. The fans were loving it. Like, it was that promo we did with Mr. McMahon when he pulled his pants down. Like, man, that was so much fun. And Thea Vidal, she's a comic, and when it was Vince who presented me with the idea, I think they weren't doing anything. I was on like this long losing streak, and when Vince suggested it to me, I was just like, hey, I'm all for whatever can get me utilized. And like I said, when he brought up the Mama thing, I was this is okay. Before Mama was introduced, I actually wrote a whole skit where Vince actually comes to my house and meets Mama. We have dinner, but I think I had like Nutty Professor vibes in my head, so I love it. I was going to play all my family members except for Mama. That's what I wrote, and they liked it. We didn't do it, but like I said, I had so much fun with that, and it was such good TV, and it really, on one hand, I can understand how fans said that gimmick set me back, but on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, it set me back because it was unfinished. You created this image, and then next thing, like I remember I showed up to work, and they just said, okay, Mama's not going to be here anymore. You're now going to be the Terrell Owens of WWE. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, just like last week, I was cowering to my Mama. This week, you want me to be this flamboyant?
Right.
Yeah. Like I was like, this is like no transition whatsoever. Just bam, this is what you are now. I was just dumbfounded.
Yeah, you go to the gold standard, then all of a sudden, after a decade, your time ends with them, and then you go to work for Ring of Honor New Japan. What's some of your favorite memories of that time there at Ring of Honor New Japan?
My favorite. Well, I actually had a lot of fun in Ring of Honor. The funny thing is, going there, I never did indies, so a lot of the guys there were still doing indies and things like that. So I had no frame of reference of the work style and things like that. Like, I never really paid attention because I was with the greatest company in the world, right out the gate. So it's like, I in my head, I don't need to pay attention to any of these other companies because I'm where I want to be. But one, it was a learning experience because the indie crowd and the WWE crowd, not the same. And the interactions and the expectations, not the same. That being said, I got to work alongside of a lot of cool people. Kevin Owens, Sammy, Roderick Strong, who else? Pretty much a lot of the guys are in AEW right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I got to work with a lot of those guys, and it was for me, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of learning. Charlie had done the indie scene before too, so he was kind of coaching me on a lot of that. So it was a learning experience for me as far as Ring of Honor goes. but I had some awesome matches. I used to live like working the Briscoes. I love working the Briscoes. Like anytime I was in the ring with them, I was just having fun. It was a ball. And for me, one of my dream matches has always been the Briscoes versus the Usos. Like I would have paid so much money to see that match. Those guys are great. And God, rest in peace, Mark. Those guys are phenomenal. Chicken, I love you. I know we haven't talked a lot, but man, I love working with Briscoes. And I had some funny matches. I remember I wrestled Maria's husband.
Oh,
Mike Bennett.
Yeah.
And we did the infamous, she didn't realize that he'd been knocked down. So she's on the ring and she's kind of being sexy. And I walk up behind her and she starts rubbing me and kind of grabs my hand and puts them on herself until she realizes that these hands are a little more chocolatey than the ones she's used to. So Ring of Honor was fun. Like I really enjoyed my time there. And the guys were great. Like I didn't have any, like I honestly can't say I've had any issues while I was working there. It was all fun. It was, for 2 years I worked with them primarily, and then I ended up going to New Japan, and that's where I'll be quite honest. New Japan rejuvenated my love for wrestling. And the wrestling culture, because I went there, like New Japan made me feel like I was doing them a favor by even working for them. From a character standpoint, like they actually protected me. They made me, like, I just started calling myself Shelton X Benjamin when they put me in Suzuki Gun. And Minoru Suzuki, he was awesome. Took me on his wing. Like it's a completely different culture, but it's a respect culture. Like, again, much like when I first went to WWE, when I first got called on the road, I couldn't wait to go to work. I loved being around them, and I had no designs around working in Japan at all until MVP called me and said, "Hey, you want to be my partner at Wrestle Kingdom?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah.
I expected it to be a one-off. I didn't think it was going to turn into a 4-year relationship. And I've said it before, if New Japan had the resources that WWE had, I don't know if I would have ever came back. Like, I love that company. I fell in love with Japan.
That's a much better company for you. As good as WWE is for you, I think New Japan was definitely your flavor, man.
Oh man, like I said, I got nothing but love for New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah, because they did an exchange thing where the Suzuki Gun faction, which I was a part of, we're sent to Noah, raising hell. For me, it didn't matter. I was having the time of my life. I got to learn so much about the Japan and its culture. Like I love that country now, and I never even considered working there before MVP called me.
Yeah. Well, listen, and then all of a sudden, so you do come back to WWE, you get involved with the Hurt Business. You talk a little bit about that, and now here we sit, you've been released. So kind of talk about the last few, years for you back in WWE, and now here you sit with the release.
So, when I first went back, I didn't know what to expect. I got there and like the whole locker room had changed. It was like most of the guys there, obviously I didn't even know. So it was a bit of an adjustment period, but they put me with Gable at first in the tag team. I'll be honest, I wasn't happy about that. Like I was like, I just felt like they are just trying to replace Jordan. They were trying to replace Jordan with someone similar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I didn't like that. I also felt like I had enough name value that I didn't need a partner. And I just don't feel like they really had any plans. Like it was okay. I think it was more of a we need to give Chad a partner. Okay. Oh, so let's stick him with Shelton's coming back. They're both amateur wrestlers. They're both from Minnesota, and like I said, it was. I think it was an attempt, but I don't think it worked. And not to say we didn't try, because Gable's phenomenal. Jesus Christ, like he's phenomenal. I really wish they would do more with him. The knock is always going to be his size, but I'm like, who cares? Like, who cares? Like that kid is phenomenal.
Great.
I don't think I was the right partner for him, but at the same time, I think he's phenomenal. I think he's underutilized, underappreciated. So he has a lot in common with me.
Sounds familiar, huh, Shelton?
Just a little bit. But yeah, so we do that, and then they break us up, and really it was just a lot of floundering. It's like no matter what I would try, no matter what I would ask, and they just wouldn't do anything. And a lot of people. I've read comments, hacking on the past about my personality and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, I can only do what they give me room to do. And like I said, stuff I wanted to try, they didn't want to try it. Like, I was just there I just felt like I was there to, add to the depth chart. Then the pandemic hit, and again, I still wasn't doing much, but entered the hurt business. My time, from the time we started to the time, I wouldn't say to the time it ended, because I couldn't tell you when it actually ended. But the early days with the hurt business, that came together so organically. And, unfortunately it was during the pandemic, and, a lot of people weren't coming to work because of, everyone had their reasons, no judgments there. But, when they were in a situation where we have to utilize who we have and who is coming to work, who is showing up, and, myself and all the members were a part of that. And when they put us together, like myself, Bobby, and MVP and Cedric, we all have real relation. We all have a real friendship relationship with each other. It wasn't a situation where, okay, well, we just need to put a guy in a spot. It's like, no, these guys, we're actually friends. Like, we actually consult with each other. We actually look out for each other. We actually joke with each other, play with each other's kids, and this, that, and the nine. So when they started having us work together, it was like work became really fun again, because I was doing stuff with my friends, and everyone had their own little influences. And much like when me and Charlie were tagging, how me and Charlie would look out for each other and, veto some things. And like, we were all doing that for each other. Like, for example, Bobby Lashley, extremely generous in the ring to a fault. So there were times that we would be putting together matches and guys would suggest things to do with Bobby. And again, Bobby's nice. Bobby's usually, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And, that's when me or Cedric or even MVP would step up and go. Because also we understood where Vince was trying to get Bobby. And we would go like, no. You can do that with me. You can do that with him, but you can't do that with Bobby. We're
Bobby, right?
Yeah. We're protecting Bobby even when Bobby wouldn't protect himself. When Bobby was willing to do business, we're like, no, because we know where they're trying to get you. So everybody was working to help everybody else. And, the suits and everything, of course, that's all MVP. And I remember we had a meeting with Vince once, and MVP and Bobby had already kind of started the hurt business. So I went in with the attitude of, yeah, I'm not a suits fan. I don't mind putting on a sport coat and some jeans. And we had a meeting with Vince, and this is before Cedric was made a member. and I remember Vince going, hey, he was saying, yeah, Bobby, you look great in the suit and MVP. You're always coming sharp. And Shelton, you got a nice pair of jeans on. And it was like, you're like, oh, he just put me on the spot. And then later that same competition is like, yeah, and then, you guys in the suit and you too, Shelton, because you always got a nice pair of jeans. I'm like, bro, I get it. So I went all in after that. Got like a dozen suits and everything. So I dove in. So the Hurt Business, the rise of the Hurt Business, like at that time in my career when I was extremely frustrated, it came in as a breath of fresh air. And the fact that it was getting over despite not having a crowd, like the reactions from all fans, obviously there were a lot of early comparisons of us to, the APA. And we were like, we made it a point. No, we're never going to mention our race because we shouldn't have to. You can look at us and see what we are. That's not what matters here. Like, we are a kick-ass professional team. Like, we look good, we dress good, and we get the job done. And yeah, we are black, but we don't need to tell you that. And I think because of that, we didn't alienate any fans by trying to create a race card with it. Like, sure. The only thing that mattered to the Hurt Business was green. That's the only thing. And but of course, representation counts for a lot. And so, of course, from our black fans and people of color, like, we were getting so much extra love because of how we were representing ourselves. Like, we didn't sing, we didn't dance, we weren't comical. We lost Kurt. Oh, there he is. So we took that very seriously, and we all take a lot of pride in being able to represent people of color in such a positive light. Also, doing it without having to beat people over the head with our race. It doesn't matter. We are. I had spoken to Eddie Guerrero years ago, because even back then, there were some racial things that I just didn't know areas I didn't know how to navigate. And he said to me, he's like, look, you're not a black superstar. You're a superstar that just happens to be black. Yeah. So approach it from that aspect. But that being said, I still recognize that I guess we recognize that we have a certain effect on our community. And like I said, we had fun with it. It ended way too soon. And then the reunion teases and all that stuff. And now we're going to the downturn of it, because every week we were just like, why? And no one could tell us why. And the only person, the boss made the decision. Why? No one to this day has ever been able to explain to us, other than the Hurt Business was definitely a vehicle for Bobby, which again I take great pride in having being a part of that. But breaking it up, I still think that was the easiest layup in pro wrestling. They just wouldn't take the shot.
And Shelton, now here you are, outside of the WWE. You look like you're in phenomenal shape. I can see it through that "You Suck" shirt. The guns are there. You're in incredible shape. What's next for you, man, as we start to wrap this up with you? Because we appreciate the time. This has been awesome.
To be honest, I don't know. I'm still weighing options.
Okay.
I've had a knock on my door here or there. I had no commitments, nothing major to announce aside from a few indie days, a lot of autograph sessions. Like, I've been really taking my time and deciding what I want to do next, because I am at a point in my career where it's like I want to have fun. And if it's not worth it, I want to have fun. I want to make money. If it's not worth it, I just don't want to do it. I'm not trying to build a name. I have a name, but I want to be where I'm appreciated and featured, and like I said, and can have some fun. I've never had at least I don't think I've ever had the superstar complex where I got to do this. I got to like, no, I've had, January 10th marked 24 years in the business for me. And like I said, I've been extremely fortunate with injuries and family life and all these things that I can still go out and tear it up with the best of them. Again, I'm just not sure where that's going to be at this point, but I'm taking temperatures all over the place.
Now, before we let you get out of here, I got to ask, because we have our ad-free show guys in the chat. Is that lightsabers behind you that are sitting over there against the window? I know you got a picture of Kurt up there too.
Yes, that is that's my lightsaber collection. So we're in my office, and I've been rearranged. That's why it looks really bare right now. But yes, I'm a collector. To those who don't know, I am the biggest kid on the planet.
I love it.
I collect lightsabers. I collect action figures. I collect video games. I'm a big kid, and thanks to my life as a pro wrestler, I've never really had to grow up. I've never had a normal 9 to 5, and I don't ever want one.
Job, huh?
Right. So yeah, those are four of my 8 lightsabers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have. I don't know. I like I said, once I grab onto something, I just kind of keep going.
Favorite wrestling collectible you own?
Favorite wrestler that I own? My own figures.
Collectible. Yeah.
My own figures.
Okay. There you go. There you go.
But like this isn't like that's my bit of collection of there. That's pretty much every title that I've won in pro wrestling. Yeah, even the tag title. So yeah, I'm a big kid. I'm like the biggest. I'm a geek that can fight. That's basically.
You're a dangerous geek. Man, this has been awesome having you on. We can't wait to see what you do next, Shelton. Kurt, hasn't this been great?
This has been awesome, Shelton. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. It's nice to have someone to talk to.
Well, you know what? We just ran out. I mean, you've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. We've loved every minute of it, and maybe we'll have to have you back at some point. I would love that. I know.
Yeah, I suggested to Kurt, like, let's have a team annual reunion on the Kurt Angle podcast.
Ooh,
that's a good idea, Sheldon. you did mention it to me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Little Charlie Haas, little Shelton Benjamin, and Kurt Angle. I'm down. And that sounds good. Hey, anything you want to promote before we let you go?
Well, I'm going to be doing a few autograph sessions in Minneapolis, Des Moines, Iowa. I just actually today just kind of tweeted some of these things out.
Okay. Well, Sheldon, do you have a website that the fans can go to see where you're appearing?
Well, right now you can check out my social, both my IG and my Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, is SheltyB803. So any announcements or anything that I have, they'll probably hit there first. I did just start a Twitch channel, which is honestly, I did one stream. And I got my butt kicked the whole time on the games. So I'm like, okay, I gotta pick my games more wisely. I want to at least look good when I'm on these things. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch. I believe that's SheltonB803 also. So yeah, that's me. If you want to keep up, again, SheltonB803 on Instagram, SheltonB803 on X, Twitter, and catch me on Twitch.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Love you, brother.
All right. Yep.
All right, Kurt. Oh, whoa. Just before you go, just so you know, I still have both suits.
No. Wow, I only have one.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you and your brother Eric ripped up one. I don't know what happened to Charlie. Yeah, I take care of my stuff.
Don't have his anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to dig through boxes to pull those out, but yeah, I still got them there in perfect condition. So if we need to break them out,
yeah, that's not a bad idea. But hey, imagine what they're going to be worth in 100 years.
You won't be around to see it, but imagine in 100 years. Oh man, Shelton, thank you so much. Appreciate you. We'll chat again soon with you.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Love you,
Take care, Kurt.
Take care. There it is, Shelton Benjamin, Kurt. That was a lot of fun, man.
It was. He's a lot of fun. That guy, when I first met him, he was really shy. And you could tell he's a little shy just by his personality. But when he gets in that ring, man, he's a different person. I mean, his performance level, he just has so much charisma and athletic ability. He is the absolute best athlete I've ever seen in WWE history, man. Period.
Something else, and he was so engaging and talkative. I love that interview. So good. We hope you guys enjoyed it too. The ad-free show members have been chatting the entire time, and they seem to really enjoy it. A lot of respect, a lot of love for Shelton Benjamin. Kurt, before we get out of here, you know what we do at the end of the show? We have a little bit of fun while you're digging for your chicken snacks. Remember, you can check out all Kurt's past TNA moments at tnawrestling.com/packages and sign up with code Kurt. Hey, do you see? Nick Nemeth is in TNA. That's right. The former Dolph Ziggler is TNA, buddy. What do you think of that?
That was a big hit for them.
Big hit.
Big news, yes.
So check it out. You can find out there and sign up with code Kurt. Also, make sure you vote for the Kurt Angle Show Sports Podcast Award for the best wrestling podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is below in our description. The voting will close on January 28th. Kurt, it's coming down, but we have
throw in that vote for us. We really need it.
That's right. And then just a reminder, if your podcast is looking to target that 25 to 55-year-old audience, there's no better place than to advertise right here on the Kurt Angle Show. You can check it out by going to advertisewithangle.com. Why? There's no better place than to advertise with Kurt Angle. Who doesn't want to hear Kurt Angle talk about your product? I mean, good Lord, we're about to hear him talk about all his products. Don't forget, you can check us out on boxofgimmicks.com. You can find the shirts that Kurt and I are wearing. Who doesn't want to wear that meme machine all over yourself? So check it out. It does. And we got lots of other shirts and gear on there that has just hit the store as well. So make sure you check that out. You can find us on social media at The Real Kurt Angle and at Paulie Bewell, also at The Angle Pod. And then find us on YouTube, KurtAngleTV.com. Subscribe. We've broken 70,000 subscribers, on our way to 100,000 this year. So we'd really appreciate it. Support, turn on those notifications and subscribe, KurtAngleTV.com. Kurt, tell us about those Smart Snacks.
Smart Snacks Crispy Protein Bites. There are 4 different flavors. They're all whey protein. They're incredible. The flavors, there are 4 different flavors. This flavor right here is sriracha. You're going to absolutely love them. My favorite right now is sweet barbecue. I love those very much. And you get them at physicallyfit.com. You can use the code AnglePod20 and get 20% off your first order, or you can become a lifetime member on the website and get 20% off the rest of your life. But you're going to love these Snack Smarts Crispy Protein Bites.
Kurt, you know what they'll love even more is chasing them down with the cookies and cream protein shake.
That's right, my protein. Kurt Angle's American Dream Cookies and Cream Protein. The best case of protein you'll ever try. Trust me. Go to project1nutrition.com to order yours. Incredible flavor, high protein, low carbohydrate. You're going to love it.
Hey, not only that, Kurt, but by the way, I've heard that you've been selling some meme machine photos over at KurtAngleBrand.com. Not only can they get those cowboy hats, those milk cartons, they can get you on Cameo Video, which I feel like I'm getting one from you right now. There's also T-shirts, but the meme machine photos, have all 500 sold out yet?
No, we have about 50 left, but they're going fast. I mean, I've been busy for the last week signing autographs and writing down addresses and getting them out to the post office. So it's going by quickly, but there's only 50 left. If you want one, you better order one now.
And you know what? And it's true. All he's been doing has been printing these pictures and certificates from his computer so much that the computer can't even keep up with our show anymore. It's crapped out as we close down the show this week.
It tapped out. Yes,
it did. And that's why we have a smaller picture of Kurt right now. But guys, we appreciate you hanging in there with us. Kurt, thank you so much for doing the show with me this week.
Thank you, Paul. I always have a blast with you.
Oh, you got it, man. On behalf of your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, this is Paul Bromwell, and we'll see you right back here next week on The Kurt Angle Show.